Have you been struggling to score or defend set pieces? Look no further. In this video, I will go through everything you need to know to improve your set pieces. Now, new to FM24, the introduction of set piece coaches and the new set piece creator, which has been a much needed addition to the game. The new set piece routine module will take the sting out of setting up those left and right sided free kicks, corners and throw-ins. So first things first, let's talk about set piece coaches. Set piece coaches are now a specialized staff role. Consequently, there's a new set piece attributes to every coach in the database that indicates their ability to train players in tactical aspects of set pieces. Set piece coaches looks a bit different to those of other coaches. Instead of a scouting knowledge panel on the right hand side, you now see their set piece preferences clearly indicated. These preferences cover everything from the sort of delivery style they prefer to how they like to set up defensively. So before you run through your set pieces setup, make sure you have a set piece coach or one with a good enough set piece knowledge that you'll be happy with. And after you're happy with your staff appointment, it's time to take a look at the set piece setup itself. Now don't be discouraged by the way it looks and speed run the selection guide. Well, you can if you want, but your corners are just gonna look like this. So let's run through the setup guide. Initially, your set piece coaches will present you with 6 key questions that focus on both your defensive and attack preferences from dead ball situations. The first question will ask you to indicate whether you want your team to defend with a zonal, hybrid, or man marking style. Each option will have its own contextual explanation as well as visualization, as well as a tooltip that illustrates the key pros and cons of each approach. There's also an indication of your set piece coach's preferred options. And the second question will ask you how you wish to defend your corners. And the third question will ask you how aggressively you want to counterattack from your opponent's set pieces. And moving to the fourth question, they will ask you if you want your takers to aim for the near post, far post, or center of the box. And the fifth question will ask you about how many players to send forward during an attacking set piece situation. And the sixth and final question will ask you what your preference is for in-swinging or out-swinging deliveries into the penalty area. And then from your answers of all these questions, your set piece coaches will use the answers you provide to craft some initial corner and free kick routines for every scenario. When these scenarios are created, you now see that every set piece has a specific roles attached to it. For example, at a corner, the key roles outside the taker are aerial threat, box threat, recovery defender, and creators. And instead of needing to manually assign instructions to specific positions, instructions are now automatically assigned by your backroom team to each of these 4 role categories. For example, instead of saying that you want your right-sided central defender to attack the far post, now your biggest aerial threat will now be given that job. So each role category is ranked from top to bottom, with the top instructions being assigned to your most suitable players in the matchday squad. And you can also set up how you want to tackle throw-ins in defensive, middle and attacking third of the pitch. The first 2 give you an option to retain possession or work the line. For the attacking third, you can choose to work the ball into the box or go straight for a long throw. So once you've selected your preferences for each of these 3 areas of the pitch, your set piece coach will generate routines in the same way they did with the corners and free kicks, and your players will be automatically assigned roles based on the attribute breakdowns. Your set piece takers are all automatically assigned by your backroom team. The takers themselves are ranked based on their relevant attributes, while deliveries are now categorized by swing rather than left or right. So getting all the waffle out the way, let's take a look at the set piece instructions I personally have found joy with. I would like to quickly interrupt this video, not only to ask you to subscribe and like if you haven't already, but also that these instructions are my personal tactics that have been working well enough for me, which in turn doesn't necessarily mean it's magically gonna make your team score every corner you have. It's just some general help for those managers who want it. So let's get back to the video. So after you go through those 6 initial questions, you get to a screen looking similar to this. Now this is how I like to set up. For corners, in defensive scenarios, I like to have all 10 players in the box as aerial defenders with instructions to play a mark. I don't really have anyone outside the box as well as trackers, because I feel like that just makes it easy for your opposition to have a free man. And in my attacking scenarios, you can see that for delivery, I have an in-swinger with my corner taker. Right now it is Rusnak, because I'm working on a video with Slovakia coming soon, and I like him to aim for the near post. Now for the corner taker is obviously ranked from best to worst for the left footers and the right footers, so that will be specific to your squad. And then for in the box, I like to have 3 players for aerial threats, with one being on attack the near post, one being lurk the far post, and one being attack the far post as well. And then for box threats, I like to mark the keeper. And for out the box, we can see the shape that I do like, players standing in areas the ball could potentially come out to. So I like to have one on come short, lurk outside the box, near side, lurk outside the area, center, lurk outside the area, far side. And for my recovery defenders, I have one on stay back, just in case of a long ball or a 2v1 counter-attack situations. And then obviously for my right side, it's exactly the same, just inverted. Now let's go to free kicks within shooting range. For delivery, again, this is obviously your free kick takers ranked. We will get on to wide and deep later on, but for now let's stick with within shooting range. So when we have a free kick within shooting range, in the box I like to have 4 players, all of them on go forward, nobody on box threats, and I like to have 2 on creators for out the box, 2 recovery defenders, and if needed, I like to have them on go forward, and then the instruction to stay back if needed. And now moving to my defensive scenarios. For aerial defenders, I have 3 all on go back, and for trackers, I have 2 on go back as well. And for those who stay forward, I have 4 players, and I like to have 3 to stay forward from the wall and 1 on from the wall if needed. And lastly, I like to have this player stay forward center if needed, as well as from the wall if needed. This may seem complicated with all these instructions, but I feel like there is a bit of a learning curve, and once you learn it, it's pretty straightforward and simple. And once you find something that works for you, you tend to stick with it and don't really change it. So let's move on to free kicks in the wide positions. For the defensive scenarios, I like to have 8 players as aerial defenders, all on player mark again, just like corners, and 2 trackers on player mark, very similar to my corner scenarios. And on the attack, I like to have an in swinger, and I want him to aim for any mixed cross, doesn't really matter to me. And for in the box, I like to have 3 players, one on attacking the far post, another one attacking the far post, and 1 to go forward. As you can see, it would be these players. And for out the box, I like to have 2 on lurk outside the area near side and lurk outside the area far side. And for my recovery defenders, I have 2 on stay back and 1 on stay back if needed. So that will be this position. And if needed, I have 1 on lurk outside the center and stay back if needed. Now moving on to deep free kicks on the attacking scenario. Again, I like to aim for any mixed type of crosses, and in the box I like to have 2 on the far post and 2 box threats on go forward. And outside of the box, I like to have 1 lurk outside the area in the center, and for recovery defenders to help against any type of counterattack, I have 2 on stay back, 1 on lurk outside the area near side, and 1 on lurk outside the area far side. And for defensive scenarios, again very similar to my corner scenarios, I have 8 players, all on player mark, and 2 trackers on player mark as well, and a defensive line of balanced. Now for throw-ins in the defensive third. I personally do not concede a lot of throws from my opposition, so I feel like for these scenarios you can always play around with. But this is what I like to use. I like to use 5 aerial defenders, 2 on player mark, my third one on zonally mark the 6-yard box near post, and my 4th one is also to zonally mark the 6-yard box near center, and my 5th one is just center. And I like to have 4 trackers also all on player mark, and for out the box I like to stay forward center. And for my attacking scenarios, I just have it on retained possession. This doesn't really make a difference for me personally, so I'll just have it on this one because I'm the type of manager who likes to have possession. And in the middle third, it's exactly the same, retained possession. And in the attacking third, I have it to work into the box because personally, the teams that I manage don't really have good long throw players, so working into the box just works. And that's about it. I feel like this works perfectly for me. You're welcome to adopt it, but then again, take it with a pinch of salt. It might not always work for you, so feel free to experiment. So after looking at all these set piece tactics, I hope that you have success with them. And thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.